see, Butcher Man.
Hi everybody, and welcome to the first video of the Oink blog and Beyond's brand new YouTube channel. Regular readers of the blog might be wondering what exactly can I bring to it with some videos of me waffling in front of my camera. That will become evident later on in this video, but first of all I just wanted to introduce everybody who hasn't heard of the website to the Oink blog and Beyond. Okay, so Oink itself has a lot to answer for. You can see behind me a range of comics. This wasn't always the case until this came along when I was quite young. Oink was my very first comic, and that was, and still is, my very favourite childhood book. Oink was created in 1986 and lasted for a very successful 2.5 to 3 years. Created and co-edited by three incredibly talented individuals by the name of Mark Rogers, Patrick Gallagher and Tony Husband. It sought to shake things up in a very sort of old-fashioned comics industry here in the UK, humour comics. It was seen at the time that 80s humour was more outrageous, it was more out there. The kids had an awful lot more things to distract them now, video games and TV. Their humour had developed and become more sophisticated, but the comics of the day were still rooted in the previous decades. Along came Oink. It brought in such a huge range of huge comic talent. Lou Stringer, who was in basically nearly every single Marvel UK comic. Jeremy Banks from Punch magazine. Tony Husband you'll see in Private Eye. And even later on the run, Charlie Brooker. That Charlie Brooker would have his first paying job while still at school, working for Oink. Oink itself, just to sum it up, basically, I don't need to do anything else other than take this. So it's first annual, and turn it around to the back page. Yes. This formed very much my sense of humour. So anybody that knows me and my sense of humour, you know who's to blame. Back in 2010, there was the very sad news of the passing of a gentleman by the name of Chris Seavey. Now you may not have heard of his name, but you'll very much know the character he played. Frank Sidebottom. A staple of children's TV, particularly Saturday morning TV. Chris, or rather Frank, joined Oink in photo stories, in comic strips painstakingly drawn by hand and coloured in by felt tip. He was there throughout most of Oink's run. When I found out of his passing, I went onto eBay and grabbed a few random issues of Oink. I had kept the book. This is my actual book from whenever I was a kid. I think 2 issues of the comic. The rest had been thrown out through moving out of home in my 20s and through various house moves since. The few issues I got were great. I really enjoyed them. And that was it. Until 2013, about a month or so before the anniversary of Oink's first issue, I discovered a near complete and pristine mint condition collection of the comics on eBay. Spent far too much money and then panicked and thought, I need to do something with these rather more than just read them. Speaking to Lou Stringer online, he gave me the idea of reading the comics one at a time on the dates of their original release, so once a fortnight. And keep doing this throughout the whole run, so don't jump ahead, read one issue, that's it, leave it for a fortnight. I love this idea, and I've been looking for a reason to do a blog. I tried several blogs online, and none of them had ever lasted more than a couple of months. This one did, and that's what I did. For 2.5 years, I read Oink in real time and wrote up a review of each issue as we went along. It soon expanded. There were interviews with the creative crew. There were in-depth looks at certain aspects of the comic. There was brand new material coming out featuring these characters, and great behind-the-scenes information. I became good friends online with plenty of the team, and as I was approaching the end of Oink's run, I didn't want to stop. But I knew if I just relied on additional Oink material, the blog was going to be kind of sparse. So I decided to cover the other comics I collected as a child. The ones I had reserved for me at the newsagents. I was only allowed so many comics to be held back in the newsagents. My parents allowed me, I think, maybe 3 at once. And then if I wanted any more, I had to use my pocket money. So I think there were 10 or 11 comics I went through in a series called Beyond Oink. And the site just grew from there. A couple of years ago, I decided some of those comics I collected as a kid hold up really well today. Some don't. Some were obviously aimed for me as a much, much younger person. And so reading them as an adult, I'm obviously not going to enjoy them. But there were some I really did enjoy, maybe even more so now as a alleged grown-up. So I thought, well then, let's take one of these titles one at a time, read it in real time, whether that's monthly, weekly or fortnightly, whatever, and do reviews for them, just like I did with Oink. I started with a comic called Ring Raiders and soon moved on. I've covered so far, I have covered that comic, Jurassic Park, Supernaturals, Visionaries, and even annuals that I used to get every Christmas as a kid, including Knight Rider and Big Comic Book. They're even more painstakingly read in real time. I have the complete collection of some of them, and yet I'm having to wait a whole year to read the next one and the next one and the next one. But that's the whole point of the blog, and I have loved it. And I still have so much more to come. A lot of these are forgotten, and there's been a great reaction to them getting the coverage they deserve. Well, I say deserve, I'm writing it, maybe they deserve more than that, but you know what I mean. Alongside this, the Oink blog has its own Instagram feed, which I started up mainly because I've been wanting to cover Marvel UK's Transformers comic. Now it's a huge collection, 332 issues, mostly weekly. That was just too much for me to write a full review of every week. So far, it might be something in the future. So I decided the stories themselves have been covered in depth so many times online. I wanted to bring something new. I thought, right, well, let's take some photographs of the physical comics. And I'm doing that in real time as well. That's going to take altogether, I think, about seven and a half years. And then these get summed up on the blog in monthly blocks. I'm a bit behind, quite a bit behind with those, I have to say. But it all adds to the blog. You now know what the blog's all about. These classic comics, read in real time, essentially with the rose-tinted glasses taken off. I'm reading them now as an adult. I'm 42 years of age. I'm not reading them thinking this comic was aimed for me when I was a teenager or younger. It was written in 1985, whatever. I'm reading it as a comic today, you know, and that's how I review them, you know. So I was inspired over lockdown this year by Coffee and Heroes, a comic shop, fantastic comic shop in Belfast. Run by Alan and Vicky. Every week, Alan does YouTube videos about new releases coming into the shop, how the shop's doing, especially over lockdown, and also any new additions to his own collection, just to rub it in. So as a way of saying thank you for the inspiration and to pay a little homage, I'm just going to take this sip of this coffee. Oh, yeah, while I'm here, we'll just make some Oink fans very jealous. I was never collecting any modern comics. I was always reading these classics until a few years ago when I started through Coffee and Heroes. And now I have half a dozen or so on my pull list every month, and it's slowly starting to grow. I wanted to cover these somehow, but they felt out of place on the blog. I thought, well, what about a YouTube video? And it sort of grew from there. So that will be something that will be part of this blog. The next video I do intend to do is going to be a look back at the first ever comic I bought, which was an issue of Oink. It was the first comic I ever bought myself, and I want to use that as a more in-depth look at Oink for YouTube itself. The comic itself is sadly forgotten these days, but it was hugely important, and really it did change an awful lot in the comics industry, and its humour holds up so well today. Oink would do superbly well today. A lot of its humour would just translate perfectly, you know. So it's been great to see Oink being remembered so well on the blog, but also new people discovering it. And the most heartwarming thing is pig pals, that's those of us who grew up and bought Oink as kids, that's what we were called, who now have grown up and have kids of their own, have been introducing the comic to them through the blog, and I've had some lovely comments sent to me and photographs of people's kids today enjoying issues of Oink because they've been reading the blog and they've wanted to read the actual comics, and they're laughing away and they're loving it, and it's been great. So I want to bring that to YouTube now as well. So we're looking at the very, very first comic I ever bought. I do want to sort of round up my top sort of half dozen issues of Oink. Incredibly difficult thing to do, a very difficult task. I have whittled it down. If anybody out there remembers the comic, anybody who's read the blog or sees videos wants to dip their toes in, I'll recommend the best 6 issues to get. There'll be those monthly roundups of the brand new comics. You can see some here behind me on these shelves. A lot of this are classic comics and new comics. I blame an awful lot of this on Coffee and Heroes for getting me really back into comics big time. A lot of money has been spent the past couple of years. But also the videos will be used to introduce new comics or new classic comics to the site. For example, Wildcat is going to be coming to the site in October, I think it is. So what I'd like to do is do a video beforehand, and I'll do this every time a new comic is added to the site. It's a video summing up my memories of the comic, very much with the rose-tinted glasses on. What I remember, what I enjoyed, what I'm looking forward to. Then we'll cover all the issues, and at the very end we'll do another video rounding all up, rose-tinted glasses off. We'll round up all the reviews of each issue, and my final thoughts on the comic. Has it held up after all this time? And we'll do it from there. So that's us for the first video. I hope you're still with me. And if so, please do comment below. Tell me if there's anything you would like to see covered here, any questions you have about the old classic comics. Go on over to the blog, read away, and just join in. Most people nowadays comment on Instagram, but hopefully we'll get that here as well. And I will see you next time. And in the meantime, take care and stay safe.
Who eat pigs? 'Cause they're made from ham. Eat the nasty butcher man. Pigs in daytime, pigs at night. If you read Oink, you'll be alright. 'Cause pigs will know that you're okay.